What if everything you knew about yourself was a lie? In sololevelingragnarok, Suho, a seemingly ordinary person discovers his hidden powers and steps into a destiny that could change the world. This is the story of an unawakened who becomes the strongest necromancer alive. The outer gods, the absolute entities that had created numerous universes since ancient times, were known as supreme beings. These supreme beings would repeatedly create universes while pursuing eternal life and living it. In that process, numerous substances, souls, and laws were birthed. In this endless cycle, the supreme beings that felt a persistent sense of boredom thought of a way to entertain themselves, and that was to watch their creations go to war with each other. To the supreme beings, the destruction caused by their creations seemed interesting. However, that meant that numerous creations had to fight in endless wars, die, and be reborn repeatedly. As that was a necessary event to appease the boredom of the supreme beings, it's like they were watching the ultimate action movie, but with real-life consequences. While all that was taking place, something happened. A supreme being observing the endless wars was killed by his own creation. When the supreme beings from other dimensions found out about that, they all gathered in one spot to observe the world that had lost its master. The death of a fellow supreme being, the fact that he was killed by his own creation, they do not care about that, but they all had the same thought, which is the first to claim an ownerless power and become its master. In Korea, a young man, Suho, tells his friend that he got into the Korean National University of Arts. His friends say he is lying, and they ask how someone as unrefined as him could get into an arts university. But Suho is happy, and he says that he finally freed. Another student congratulates Suho on passing the entrance exam and says he never knew Suho had such a talent. Suho turns around and calls him Kim Sunkul, but the student gets annoyed and corrects him, saying his name is Lee Yunchul, but Suho acts like he didn't mess up on purpose. Lee Yunchul blames Suho for ruining his plan to take over the high school, but Suho, unbothered, says it is also thanks to him that Lee Yunchul is able to graduate safely. Other students notice Lee Yunchul provoking Suho again, and with graduation so close, they wonder why Lee Yunchul keeps acting childish towards someone trying to move on after losing his parents. Yunchul needs to chill. Graduation's coming, and he's out here acting like the final boss in a video game. Angry, Lee Yunchul yells Suho's name and tries to attack him, but Suho stays calm, dodges the attack, and counters, knocking Lee Yunchul down. Suho tells him that they should live a quiet life until graduation and starts to leave, but Suho then attacks Lee Yunchul and kicks him. It seems Suho's version of lay low apparently involves a kick to the ribs. Lee Yunchul taunts Suho, saying his kick did not hurt at all. Suddenly, his hand starts glowing with a strange energy, and he launches a powerful strike, but Suho barely avoids it, and the attack destroys nearby lockers. Suho is stunned and frozen with fear, same as the other students, and they all stare at the hole in the locker. Lee Yunchul stands glowing with an intense aura, and he also wonders what just happened. 2 years later, Suho is now a second-year university student, and he walks through the streets. He hears someone announcing that all lessons will be taking place in the main building, and they should all head there. He also hears that the hunters are currently going to subjugate the monsters and they should stay away. A man asks the security men how long it has been since the hunters went in, and a security man replies that it has been slightly over 8 hours, and since the gate is estimated to be D rank, he thinks they should be out soon. The man then announces to the people that the area can get dangerous for anyone who is not a hunter, so they should stay away. Suho ponders about the gate, which first appeared 3 years ago, and causes the world to undergo a huge change to dungeons, and once a certain amount of time has passed, the monsters within the dungeons would come out of the dungeon to kill people. However, people also changed as if to go against what was happening. Special users that could use mana, called the Awakened, started to appear. With the world changing so rapidly, everyone thought the chaos would persist for a long time. An Awakened known as Wu Jinchul then created the Hunter Association, gathered Awakened, and created a job known as Hunters quickly, which put an end to the chaos faster than expected. Now, the people in the world are divided into awakened and non-awakened, so basically, it's the cool kids with superpowers vs. the rest of us normal folks just trying to get by. While in art class, Suho reasons that there are people in the world who can only get rewards by crawling like an ant, but there are also others who can get them easily just by grabbing them, and in that situation, the ants quickly realize their own limits. It turns out that Suho later gets beaten up by Lee Yunchul, and he reasons that no matter how hard the non-awakened worked, they still would not be able to make up for the difference between them and an E-rank awakened, and if the hunters cannot close the gates, the world will be destroyed. In other words, without the awakened, the non-awakened cannot survive, but the awakened can survive without the non-awakened, and because of this, everyone is grateful to the hunters. Suho also feels grateful to hunters for keeping ordinary people like him safe, but he also feels uneasy relying on them, as he reasons that he is starting to wonder if he is getting too used to not being able to get what he wants. It's like borrowing your friend's Netflix account. You're grateful, but deep down you know you're a little too dependent on them to binge your favorite shows. He thinks about his missing parents, the fact that his survival relies on others, and the time when it seemed like he could do anything. He feels that what he possessed had disappeared, and a sense of powerlessness had filled that void. Suho remembers that his mom always said that he resembled his father and wonders how his father would get out of the powerless situation he is in. While thinking, his teacher approaches him and says he is focusing pretty well, and he asks what he is having so much fun drawing. Suho says he just drew based on how he felt. The teacher comments that it is pretty creative drawing of an ant. The teacher then realizes Suho has been drawing a strange human-like ant, but Suho does not know why drew such a thing. Meanwhile, at the gate, hunters return, and the crowd relaxes, thinking that the raid is successful. Hunter Kim tells the security man that they have successfully completed the dungeon raid, and they have information that needs to be reported to the Hunter Association. Kim says that they ran into a new type of monster, a humanoid monster that emits blue flames from its eyes and mouth. He says the monster attacked with its claws and fangs, but it did not do much damage, and he got scratched, but it attacked a little, but nothing really happened. The security man replies that such a monster has not been spotted since the gates have appeared, and he is glad it was not a dangerous monster. Suddenly, blue flames spread from Hunter Kim's wound and seem to spread around his body. He goes quiet and the security calls his name, and he attacks the man without warning. As the people watch in shock, the other hunters realize that the blue flames are the same flames the monster they saw in the dungeon had. Panic spreads as people realize the flames are infectious, and they all run around, terrified as Hunter Kim, now controlled by the flames, attacks anything in his path. If 2020 taught us anything, it's that outbreaks escalate way too quickly. The noise interrupts the drawing class, and the students rush to the windows to see what's happening. Suho also looks outside, but they all can't make sense of the chaos. People are shouting and attacking each other, all engulfed in strange blue flames, and one of the students points out that the people have blue lights in their eyes, and it is like they are monsters. Another student asks if there has been a dungeon break. As they watch the people outside, they argue if they should try to escape, but some say they should wait for the hunters. One student asks their instructor, who is an awakened, to do something, but the instructor hesitates, explaining he's only an E-rank hunter and can't do much when your last hope turns out to be the guy who couldn't even open a pickle jar. Suho notices a flame-engulfed hunter heading straight for their building, and he shouts for everyone to run away, but the hunter suddenly jumps and crashes through the classroom window and begins attacking. Some students watch in fear, until Suho runs, yelling for others to follow. As Suho escapes, he notices a girl on the floor, injured and unable to move. She cries out for help, but Suho hesitates, unsure of how to assist her. Panicked, he shouts that he will go to get hunters and runs off. Guilt consumes him as he realizes he might have left her to her fate, but he knows he's powerless as a non-awakened. He then realizes that even if he blames his powerlessness, nothing will change and he needs to find something he can do. Determined, Suho gathers himself and thinks about what his father would do in this situation. He looks back and sees the possessed hunter approaching the girl, and she screams and covers her face, terrified. Without hesitation, Suho grabs a fire extinguisher and charges back to help, because when life gives you monsters, apparently the answer is fire extinguisher kung fu. Using it, he fights off the hunter and saves her from certain death. As relief washes over him, Suho feels proud of his decision. He knows his father would have done the same. Then, a notification appears before him, stating he has completed the conditions for the secret quest. Courage of the powerless turns out saving lives not only feels good, but might also unlock bonus levels. Suho recalls that he has had a dream before, in a game-like world, where in order to take down monsters that grew stronger with every passing floor, he leveled up and fought, and as the monsters grew more fierce, he had no choice but to keep growing stronger. And after overcoming the numerous challenges, he eventually reached the final floor. The final boss he encountered was incredibly powerful, and for some reason, the final boss was his father. Suho reasons that he believed that he perhaps projected his father's perception into his dreams, and he wonders how his strong and trustworthy father got so strong. Let's face it, every dad somehow has that final boss vibe when you're trying to sneak past curfew. In reality, Suho fights the flame-engulfed hunter to save the injured girl. He runs towards the hunter wielding the fire extinguisher as his weapon, and he smashes the fire extinguisher on the hunter, wondering if his father would have done the same. Some people wield swords, some wield fire. But Suho is out here, wielding Home Depot's finest. After attacking the hunter, Suho wonders what to do next, as he has heard that attacks without mana do not do damage to monsters. As he ponders what will happen if he rushes in without a plan, time suddenly freezes, and Suho receives a system notification. It congratulates him on completing the secret quest, Courage of the Weak, and offers him the chance to become a player. Suho stares at the notification and ponders that it feels a lot like his dream. He reasons that if things play out like they did in that dream, then there is no reason not to accept the hopeless situation, and he accepts the offer. The system rewards him with enhanced health, immunity to diseases and poisons, and new abilities. Suho smiles as he looks at the game-like status window. He then receives a quest to take down the mist-burn monsters and level up. I wish real life came with an upgrade button, like congratulations. You've unlocked 50% more willpower to finish your homework. Some people affected by the blue mist start to rise, which makes Suho realizes that time is moving again, and he warns the girl to run away. Suho notices the labels above the monsters' heads, and he realizes that his opponents consist of 2 unawakened and 1 hunter who has been monsterized. As the monsters charge to attack him, he tests his powers by knocking back a monster with a fire extinguisher before delivering a powerful punch. The system notifies him that he has defeated an unawakened mist-burn monster, and he is shocked to be able to do that with just 1 punch. As the second unawakened mist-burn monster attacks him, Suho easily defeats it, and the system notifies him that he has completed the first quest and has leveled up, gaining more abilities. The system asks if he would like to confirm his rewards, and Suho reasons that he just confirmed that he has really awakened. He attacks the D-rank awakened mist-burn monster, but the monster withstands his attack. While Suho is in shock, the monster attacks him and slashes his chest, making Suho collapse in pain. He reasons that if he gets wounded, he will end up becoming a monster, which makes him worried that he just awakened and is about to be monsterized. The system then alerts him that a harmful status effect has been detected, and through the effects of longevity, all status effects have been neutralized. It's like having a life coach pop in to say, "Don't worry, I got this. You are going nowhere." Suho then remembers that he saw that on his status window. The monster attacks again, and they start fighting. Suho reasons that if he is weaker than a D rank awakened, that means he is E rank, and he feels annoyed that he has such a pathetic rank. As they continue to fight, with the monster gaining the upper hand, Suho reasons there has to be some way, and he remembers that he has rewards and he receives the ability and strength points. Suho uses his strength to throw off the monster, and as the two continue their fight, Suho realizes that he cannot still take down the monster with his increased strength. He then decides to put all the points he received into strength. As he gains more strength, Suho hits the monster continuously while reasoning that he has never heard of an awakened that can level up before, as their rank is decided the moment they awaken, and no awakener can become stronger than their rank. Now beating the monster mercilessly, Suho reasons that while he does not know who it is that is deciding one's rank, or if they will be unawakened if he gained the power to escape that system, Suho then slams the monster against the wall and continues to beat him, and finally defeats the monster. Suho receives another level up and more abilities, and he sits trying to catch his breath. He reasons that he is now an awakened, and he can now save other people and put an end to the disaster first boss fight, and Suho's already out here thinking he is the real boss. Talk about confidence. Meanwhile, a monster wielding a heavy sword approaches the building. Suho looks down a window to check the situation outside, and he notices the new threat, a C-rank awakened mist-burn monster, and the monster jumps, charging to attack Suho. An emergency announcement echoes throughout the city that there is a dungeon break within the Korean Art University, and all nearby residents should evacuate quickly. The soldiers stationed on a rooftop observe the chaos below and feel bad that the people are dying, but they can only watch and wonder where the hunters dispatched by the Hunters Association are. A soldier says he thinks the association is saying it is taking a while to find hunters who are B rank and above. Another soldier asks why they are waiting for B rank hunters when the dungeon is D rank, and the soldier responds that it seems the association is taking the infected hunters into account. As they review the list of infected hunters, one soldier is shocked as he notices that a C-rank hunter is among the infected hunters. Imagine seeing a senior on the team drop the ball. You're left thinking, wait, aren't you supposed to be handling this? Meanwhile, Suho faces the C-rank awakened mist-burn monster, and he is shocked that the monster was able to jump up to where he is from the floor below. He watches the monster and reasons that he must be different from the other mist-burn monsters as he is holding a weapon. Suho reflects that he just leveled up, so he should try fighting the monster. He dodges the monster's swift attacks and stands his ground, but he is shocked as the monster attacks him again, brandishing his huge sword. Suho uses a fire extinguisher to block the attack, and the extinguisher breaks into two, filling the room with fog, and he escapes, realizing that it is impossible for him to win against the monster. As he runs away, he reasons that there is a reason the Awakened are divided into ranks, and he wonders when the hunters will get there, and he only just needs to hold on until they get there. The monster is about to pursue Suho as he flees, but his attention shifts to three terrified girls hiding on a rooftop, and he swiftly attacks them. Suho's thinking, "Phew, not me," the girls are thinking. "So much for sitting this one out." Suho is shocked at this, and he watches the monster in anger. Before resolving his mind, he leaps after the monster, knowing he cannot wait for the hunters, and he hits the monster, reasoning that he needs to stop the monster. His surprise attack catches the monster off guard, but it quickly retaliates and Suho dodges, reflecting that the monster looks like it can kill him in just one hit. He looks at the girls' bodies and determines that he cannot let the monster loose, but as they continue to fight, kicking and hitting each other, the monster slashes Suho, and he gets severely injured. Imagine trying to fight a bear with a paper towel, except the paper towel just broke. Suho tries to catch his breath as the monster walks towards him. The system notifies him that he has only used 1 out of 140 health points, and he reasons that it seems the system does not want him down yet. The C-rank monster gets to Suho and smirks as it prepares to attack. Suho stands feebly using the little strength he has, and as the monster launches itself to attack Suho, the system notifies him that his exhaustion is at 99. He feels frustrated, but he still tries to fight back. However, before he can act, another monstrous entity crashes through the roof, interrupting the battle. Suho falls to the ground, and the C-rank mist-burn monster's arm is cut off by this new monster, and Suho, bleeding and barely alive, is surprised to see that the new monster is in the form of an ant, and here I thought ants only invaded picnics, not saving lives in dramatic entrances. The ant notices that Suho has lost consciousness, and it says it arrived too late. The ant then turns to the C-rank monster and accuses it of injuring someone who is so mighty and precious. The ant then angrily kills the C-rank monster. Elsewhere, one of those infected with blue flames tries to attack another man. The man who is holding a mop stick is paralyzed by fear as a monster approaches, and he calls out for help. Just as the infected man is about to attack, it is suddenly destroyed. Others that are also infected are all destroyed in a sudden wave of energy that spreads through the city, and the soldiers watch in confusion. Meanwhile, the ant returns to the still unconscious Suho and greets him warmly, calling him young monarch. Suho remembers his childhood when he used to draw shadow warriors in his room. One day, a monster holds one of his drawings and calls the young Suho his lord. The monster realizes that Suho had drawn it. He became deeply moved and couldn't hold back his tears, saying he was so honored. Back to the present, Suho wakes up, confused and disoriented, before realizing he's in bed, under a blanket, and the first thing he says is "Aunt," while the doctors watch him. Suho calls his uncle, who asks what happened and if he did not get hurt too badly. He then assures Suho that he'll hire a couple of awakened bodyguards, but Suho insists that he is fine. The classic "I'm totally okay" energy, while pretending the kitchen fire behind you is under control. Suho reasons that by the time he opened his eyes, 2 days had already passed. He watches the TV and sees the news about the government's response to the incident that occurred at the Korea Art University and how many were disturbed. The reporter says the event, with as many casualties as it produced, became quite an issue. As first, the discovery of the mist-burn monster, which corrupts and turns even hunters into monsters. Then the late response from the Hunter Association despite the incident occurring in the middle of the city. Who hasn't been ghosted by a team you relied on? Finally, the mystery of how all the mist-burn monster ended up dead by the time the hunters did arrive, and a witness reported seeing the demonified people just explode in front of him. Suho watches in disbelief, realizing his awakening was not a dream, and he is now someone that can level up and get stronger at that. He checks his status window and notices that he is now at level 5. He then wonders how he survived the fighting the C-rank awakened mist-burn. Suddenly, a voice explains that Baru took care of the vermin. Looking down, Suho sees a huge shadow of an ant with glowing eyes. The shadow forms up and says it has been a while since it greeted Suho, shedding tears. The shadow, whose name is Baru, calls Suho his lord and says he has grown so much that he is overwhelmed with emotion. Suho starts piecing together the broken pieces of the memories of his childhood, recalling black creatures, including Baru, who once lived with him. He remembers that Biru is one of the black life forms that accompanied him in his childhood, and he wonders how he forgot it. Until that moment, how do you forget living with a giant, dramatic ant? Did he just chalk it up to weird kid imagination? Baru explains that he jumped through dimensions to see Suho, but Suho is wondering why he was living with those black creatures when he was younger, and he stares at Baru, reasoning that he has a lot of questions. Suho then tells Biru that he does not think he was that small before, and Biru explains that he had spent a lot of energy jumping across dimensions, but he is usually more dignified and fierce. Imagine telling a friend, "Hey, no big deal, I just jumped dimensions to hang out with you." Suho points out that the status windows say Baru is just a regular grunt, which makes Baru furious that the system is treating him, a martial rank, like a grunt. Suho rises, feeling better, and he learns that he is all healed up thanks to Baru, who boasts that he is a pretty skilled healer. Baru then says the main reason he came there was to break Suho's seal, but Suho has broken it himself already. Suho wonders what the seal means, and if it has something to do with his dreams where he fought Baru. But Baru says Suho may think that it was just dreams, but they were all reality, and Suho was a lot stronger than he currently is. Baru then explains that the great shadow monarch, Sung Jinwoo, who is Suho's father, sealed away his memories and powers in the hope that he would be able to live a normal life. Suho is stunned to hear his father about his father, and he asks Baru if he had something to do with his deadbeat father. But Baru says Sung Jinwoo did not leave Suho, but rather, he left for space. Suho asks what he means, and Baru clarifies that the Shadow Monarch is fighting a war in space against invaders who seek to take over the world. Imagine finding out, your dad didn't abandon me, he's just off saving the galaxy like Superman. I will surely be confused, should I be mad at him or not? But one thing for sure is I will definitely boast about it. Suho is confused that his father is fighting to protect the world, and Baru says he is protecting the world from the outer gods known as the Aitaram. Baru says the Aitaram sent out their apostle to attack Earth, and he had to tear apart countless enemies in his journey to meet Suho. He then says the gates and monsters on Earth must have been caused by those wars as well. Suho asks if his mother is in space with his father. He explains that she went missing the same day his father did, so he assumed that they would be together. Burbi becomes enraged hearing this, and says the apostles of Itaram on Earth must have set up a nefarious trap. For sure Biru is the kind of guy who hears bad guys did it, and immediately jumps to burn them all. No middle ground. Suho realizes that everything is because of the Itaram, including the reason his parents have not come back. Baru asks if he wants to meet his parents, and Suho replies that he wants to meet them as he has spent so many years by himself. Baru then says there is only one way. He explains that Suho's father cannot come to Earth for a while due to the war, so he needs to become stronger and find out about his mother, whose name is Hei-in, whereabouts. Baru shows Suho a key and says they should start leveling up. The system then notifies Suho that he has received a new quest called the Trials of the Shadow, and to regain his powers, Suho must enter the Shadow Dungeon using a key tied to his shadow. Baru tells Suho to stick the key into his shadow, and as he does this, a portal appears, and Baru urges him to enter and take back what is rightfully his. Baru sounds like the guy hyping you up to sign a gym membership. You'll crush it, my lord. First step is the hardest. Suho stares at the portal, reasoning that it seems unbelievable. He is overwhelmed by the idea of space, a war with the gods, and a shadow monarch, as they all sound far-fetched, but he reflects that if he can meet his parents once he is stronger, he will do as much leveling as it takes. As Suho steps into the portal, Baru reflects on Jinwoo's instructions to go to Earth and undo Suho's seal, as the Ataram invasions may have reached Earth. Jinwoo tells Baru to return Suho's memories and powers to him and help him defend Earth. He then says he will let Baru work out the details based on Earth's current conditions. Now, watching Suho, Baru reasons that since Jinwoo has left it up to him to work out the finer details, he will stay by Subo's side to watch him grow. Why does this sound like I'll be your coach/cheerleader? But you're doing the heavy lifting. On the other side of the portal, Suho enters the portal. Baru tells Suho that they are in the land of the dead, where no living being can enter without the owner's permission, and Suho looks around in the Shadow Dungeon, an eerie place filled with desolated buildings. Suho is surprised at the state of the Shadow Dungeon, as it looks more like a ruined city than a dungeon. I mean, the place looks more like Shadow Downtown after a zombie outbreak, and he feels uneasy as the place feels familiar to him. But his thoughts are interrupted by a notification from the system, stating that he must survive in the Shadow's dungeon to prove himself. and the system grants him 4 hours for this trial. As Suho wonders about the time range, Baru warns him to be on his guard as the trial has begun. Suddenly, a creature sneaks up on Suho and attacks, but Suho senses the danger, and he spins around to kick the creature away. Suho admits that he is scared, and he looks at the creature realizing that it is a goblin scout, and Baru points out that if it is a scout, then there must be more of them nearby. Suho decides that he will kill the goblin before he calls on his comrade, and as he runs towards the monster to attack, Baru yells out that goblins are very weak monsters, but he should not careless. Suho explains that the goblin's name is displayed in white, and that means he is similar in strength to him or even weaker. Suho then attacks the goblin scout, grabs its stone axe, and defeats it with a single blow, and the system acknowledges his victory. Suho starts to feel confident, and he tells Biru that the names of enemies stronger than him are colored, but a goblin perched on a rooftop blows a horn to call for reinforcements, and Suho realizes that there are other scouts in the air. Soon, goblin centurions, whose names are displayed in red, and goblin captains, whose names are displayed in white, all arrive looking mean. Suho asks Biru for help, but Baru says he would love to help him, but as he is very far from his liege, he cannot replenish his mana, so he must use it sparingly. He then points out that if he joins the fight, Suho will gain fewer experience points. Baru's basically that friend who says, "I could help you move, but wouldn't it be more rewarding if you did it yourself?" Suho looks around as the place is now filled with goblins, and he realizes that he is on his own. Some goblins attack him, and he uses a skill to control the goblin's axe mid-air, directing it to defeat multiple enemies at once. He says it feels like having another hand that is invisible, and the system notifies him that the skill is called Ruler's Authority, still at level 1. However, a goblin archer targets him from a distance, but Suho catches the arrow mid-flight and retaliates, taking out the archer. Baru observes Suho and reasons that his adaptability is amazing. He reflects that during Suho's toddler days, which were like a myth of the extraordinary birth of a hero, Suho was able to use ruler authority freely, and it is a skill he inherited from his father. Apparently, baby Suho was out here flexing telekinesis, while the rest of us were struggling to walk without tripping. But that power was created to destroy everything, so it became an interference in the new world. As the goblins charge to attack Suho, Baru reasons that Itarim's disciples are currently invading Earth, and Suho's power is finally able to resurface. The system notifies Suho that he is leveled up, and he reasons that he can lift objects that are no more than 10 kilograms using ruler authority. Suddenly, a goblin sneaks up and stabs him from the back, but Suho quickly retaliates, killing it. As Suho tries to remove the dagger from his back, some other goblins surround him, and a more powerful opponent, a goblin centurion, appears. He is finally able to remove the dagger, and as the goblins attack, Suho reasons that it hurts, but undeterred, Suho throws his dagger at the centurion. Landing a critical hit, he runs through the lesser goblins, killing them in one hit, and he reasons that he has never felt more alive. I mean, who would not feel more alive when your life seems to be flashing before your eyes? As he continues to fight the goblins, some hit him, and the system notifies him of how his health point is reducing, but Suho continues to fight, killing all of them. The system continuously notifies him of leveling up, and after a while, the whole place is filled with the dead bodies of the goblins. The system announces that Suho has completed the quest and has used up his time. Baru is amazed and he praises Suho, saying he had no doubt that Suho would overcome the trial. But Suho points out that he did not help at all. Baru is always believing from the sidelines. When will he ever think of picking up a sword himself? The system then notifies him that his quest reward has arrived, and the reward is a rune stone containing the shadow extraction. Suho asks if the rune stone will help him obtain the shadow extraction skill, and Baru tells him he will get it. Suho then says he got the skill called Guts while fighting, so besides getting the leveling system when he awakened, he is learning skills too. He looks at his body and tells Baru that compared to when he was not awakened, he now feels overpowered. Baru explains that the leveling system is the improved version of the old one his father used, and it is now a supporting tool for Suho's stable growth. To sum it up, Suho can think of himself as the strongest necromancer. Suho, not really understanding Baru, accepts the reward, and the rune stone appears in his hand. He breaks the rune stone and he learns shadow extraction. He realizes that he can create shadow soldiers, and Baru explains that this skill allows Suho to create soldiers from corpses, which is the way he was also created. Suho then understands what it means to be a necromancer, and he says he needs to hunt first to control corpses, and that means he can control those who are weaker than him. He turns to one of the goblin corpses and says he heard that summoning type skills are ranked low in the hunter's industry, The system notifies him that he can perform shadow extraction on the goblin corpse, and he needs to assign a command to activate the skill. Suho feels annoyed, and he wonders what to choose. Baru suggests it should be something intuitive, and Suho, emitting a powerful aura, chooses the word arise because, let's be honest, if you're going to summon the undead, you've got to sound cool doing it. As Suho says the word arise, the goblin corpse regenerates its hand, and soon after, some shadow goblins of normal rank emerge completely whole. Suho is shocked to see the results of the shadow extraction skill, and he says it is not as cool as he thought. Same energy as when you finally get that Amazon package you were waiting for, only to realize it's not as exciting as in the pictures. Baru explains that the shadows that have been freshly extracted are usually weaker and smaller than when they were alive. Suho asks how much weaker, and Baru replies that it is only a little, but the system notifies Suho that the shadows will disappear after a day passes. At least we can be rest assured that the system will be frank about the truth. This surprises Baru, and he asks if Suho does not have another skill like shadow extraction. Suho replies that he doesn't, and Baru realizes that it seems shadow authority skill is affected by Subo's intelligence stat and level. This makes him feel bad, and he says it is supposed to be such a nice and incredible skill, and Suho tells him not to get depressed. Hungry after day, without food, Suho's stomach growls, and he asks Baru how to leave the dungeon. Baru explains that the shadow dungeon key allows him to exit anytime. Suho then says they should have a break before coming back. Suho soon enjoys a meal in a hospital tent, marveling at how delicious the food is, and Baru takes this opportunity to explain what they need to do. He says 3 responsibilities were entrusted to both of them, and first, they need to protect Earth from the monsters beyond. Suho asks if he is talking about killing the monsters in the dungeon, and Baru agrees, saying Suho's level will increase as he hunts monsters, and once becomes stronger, Earth will naturally become safer. Their second task is to look for Suho's missing mother. Suho asks if there is any way they can find where she is, and Baru says he assumes they will find some clues as he keeps defeating monsters. Baru then says the third and most important task is returning his power. He rants that he hates being weak and wants to show Suho what his true power is. Suho asks what he needs to do to restore his power, and Baru replies that through consumption. He can absorb a part of a target's magic, as well as their intelligence. He explains that it is an efficient method that he used before becoming a shadow warrior, but since he cannot receive magic from the shadow monarch, he has no choice and now needs to eat whatever has magic. So basically, I've got to dungeon crawl to level up, save the world, find my mom, and help you snack on magic snacks. Cool. Sounds like a normal everyday task. Suho realizes that to achieve all the tasks, he needs to go into the dungeon. As he is done eating, he tells Baru that they should get ready to go, but Baru points out that if he wants to enter the dungeon, he needs to be approved as a hunter, so he should go to the Hunters Association and get his magic level measured. Suho reflects on measuring his magic level. He wonders what his rank will be since he is an awakened that has already leveled up, and what he will do if he happens to be an S rank. But as he later heads to the Hunter Association, he is told that his magic level is 46 and he is an E rank awakened. As Suho leaves the association, Baru says he heard that a hunter's rank is determined by the amount of magic they have, and since Suho has been focusing on raising his strength stats, it is reasonable to see that his rank does not reflect his skill level. Imagine aiming so high only to fall so low, and a grunt is saying you are all muscles and no magic. Instead of feeling reassured, Suho tells Baru that he does not need to comfort him, as that just makes things worse for him. I mean, it is just like trying to fix a cracked phone screen with duct tape. Suho feels bad as he reasons that not only is his shadow authority low, but his rank is also low, and this makes him wonder if he can protect the Earth. Baru reminds him that he can still level up, and Suho says he heard that E rank and F rank hunters have a hard time getting selected by strike teams, and if nothing changes, it will be hard for him to get into the dungeons. But Baru says he might have a way, and I am sure Suho will be doing all the work while he watch. Dungeon clearing is done through clear role distribution. The strike team focuses on clearing, while the collecting team following them collects the bodies of the monsters. Then at the very back is the mining team, gathering the resources of the dungeons of the 3 E-rank hunters can apply for the collecting and mining teams, so E-rankers are able to enter the dungeons. Basically, it's a monster cleanup crew, and E-rankers get the honor of sweeping up the crumbs. Now inside a dungeon, Suho is seen mining the dungeon with a fellow E-rank. He thanks the other man for introducing him, saying he just became an awakened, and the man is the only other awakened that he knows. The man, who is actually Suho's art instructor at the university, I'm Dog-yoon, seems uncomfortable, but Suho continues to say he is so glad to know another awakened nearby, and it is thanks to him that he is able to work inside dungeons. Dog-yoon then apologizes about what happened at the university. He says even though he was the only awakened there, he got scared and ran away. Suho tells Dog-yoon to stop apologizing. He points out that he is only in uni rank, and the Hunters Association instructed E-rankers like them to run away when they see monsters, which means he just did as he was instructed. Dog-yoon is shocked to hear that Suho is also E-rank, and Suho says his magic level was 46, which is low even for an E-rank, and Dog-yoon is even more shocked that Suho has a lower magic level than him. Dog-yoon remembers seeing Suho fight the mist-burn monsters, and he wonders if he was mistaken, as it would be more shocking if an E-rank managed to fight off monsters and live. Baru shows up at this point, saying the young monarch is incredible, and Dog-yoon shrieks in fear and calls Baru a monster. Suho asks Baru what he came out, and Baru replies that since Suho is weaker than he expected, it is only natural that he stay by his side to protect him. I am sure Suho's ego just took another critical hit. I mean, do Baru plan to protect him by doing nothing? Dog-yoon, who has been watching the conversation, asks if Suho awakened as a summoner. Suho replies he did, and Dog-yoon says he is lucky as there are a lot of people who do not have skills among the E-rankers. Dog-yoon says he has his running skills, and Suho teases him, saying that is why he is so good at running away. But this makes Dog-yoon feel bad, and Suho reassures him that it is just a joke. It is surely hard to be funny when your audience has PTSD. Suho then looks around, reasoning that it is his first time being in a dungeon other than the Shadow Dungeon, and he wonders if the strike team is fighting monsters. Meanwhile, after killing a monster wolf, one of the hunters in the strike team comments that the dungeon is empty, and another complains that he suspected that as they've been fighting a lot of wolves. The others input that wolf leather does not earn much, but the captain says they should look through the wolves as there are times when the bodies have magic stones. He then encourages them not to be depressed as they can never be sure until they reach the end of the dungeon. One of the hunters then calls their attention that there is something in the pathway, and they follow the pathway to glowing ruins. The hunters wonder what the place is, why there are ruins in a place like that, and if they should head back and ask for backup. A hunter says his tracking skill is not picking up any monster, but another hunter asks why the ruins are there if there is no monster there, and another says they will have to figure that out as they may be treasure instead of a boss monster. They find out that there is an ancient-looking sword embedded in the ground, and they are all surprised that there is actually a treasure there. A hunter says he is sure they need to get it appraised, but he thinks it will get them a fortune. Another hunter then says they should be careful as there are bound to be traps around treasure like that, but the captain tells them to step aside and he will pull out the sword. Another hunter calls the captain Kim Young-jun and tells him to wait as there might be traps, but Young-jun says if there are traps, a C rank like him should be able to handle them. One thing I am sure of is that overconfidence is always the first ingredient to disaster. As soon as Young-jun touches the sword, it emits a brilliant light, and the entire space around it transforms, looking like the mouth of a monster with several eyes. Young-jun pulls out the sword, and one of the hunters comments that it seems there is no trap. He then tells Young-jun to be careful next time, but Young-jun is entranced by the sword's power, and he swings it, only to strike the man. Horrified, the others watch as the captain begins transforming into a monstrous figure, asking who dares to cover the sword of the Fang Monarch. Now I have just one question: what, or who exactly is the Fang Monarch? Stay glued to this channel, as you sure won't want to miss what is coming next.